All right, we are on page 4 of the fall final review to look at questions 20 through 30. So we're starting with question number 21, where we are about to we want to be able to find the slope, the y-intercept, and then sketch the graph for each one. So I'm going to look at finding different ways to go about this. So what I've got in standard form, I've got two ways of doing it. I can change it to slope-intercept form, or I can take the intercept form and intercepts and find it. So with this one, if I want to take it to slope-intercept form, that is your y equals mx plus b. And we got to get it to where y is by ourselves. So I'm going to box up y. We're going to move x to the opposite side by subtracting 4x from both sides. That'll get you 2y equals negative 4x plus 10. I then still am looking to get y by itself, so I would divide by 2 on both sides, getting y to cancel out. Negative 4x divided by 2 would give you negative 2x, and 10 divided by 2 will give you 5. So that means my slope-intercept form is y equals negative 2x plus 5. This also gives me that slope and y-intercept, since it's slope-intercept form. So my slope is negative 2. My y-intercept is 0, 5. Making sure that you're knowing that it's 0, 5, because if it's a y-intercept, we got the number in the y spot. So when we get that sketched onto here, I'm going to start by graphing a point at 0, 5. And then I want to use my slope. Since it's negative 2, I'm going to be going down 2 and then right 1. So down to right 1, down to right 1. And then from there, I can lay my ID on it and get a nice, pretty straight line. Okay, so that gets 4 points for it on there. Okay, looking at question 22. Again, they're asking for that slope and that y-intercept. So my easiest way is to just go ahead and get this into slope-intercept form. I'm still boxing up my y. I want to move x to the opposite side, so we move it by doing the opposite and subtracting 3x. Cancels, I'm left with negative y, which is a negative 1y, and then negative equals negative 3x plus 5, since it's a positive 5. I again want y completely by itself, so I've got to get rid of that negative 1 by dividing everything by negative 1. When I do that, I get y equals negative by negative is a positive, so positive 3x, and then positive negative would be a negative 5. So that gives me my slope of 3 and my y-intercept as 0, negative 5. So we're going to use that both to get that onto my graph. So I got 0, negative 5 graphed on there. And then my slope, since it's positive, I'm going to go up 3 and then right 1. Up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, over and over to get all my points. And then I'm going to lay a nice straight line with my side of my ID to get that straight line. Okay. All right. With number 2, or number 23. We've only got the y, so then I should have an alarm bell ringing in my head that says hoy. Reminder that hoy is a horizontal line with a 0 slope and a y equals equation where it crosses the y-axis, and I only have y numbers. So that means my slope, based on that 0 that's there, means that I have a slope of 0. And then my y-intercept is the same as my y number. So I know that x has to be 0, and that means my y-intercept has to be 0, -5. So I can go on my y-axis, again, because I'm dealing with y, to where y is -5. Got a nice little point there, and then we draw a horizontal line through it. 24, we're looking at x equals only. So I've got not hoy, but vux. So if it's x only, then I've got an x equals equation. I've got a vertical line with an undefined slope, so that u that's in the middle tells us that it is an undefined slope. It's got an x equals equation where it crosses the x-axis and an x-intercept only. So when I look at that, x equals 4, it means that every x value is going to be 4. Your x-intercept has to be a number and then 0 for y, so it's going to be 4, 0. So we're going to put on our x-axis a dot at +4 and then draw a vertical line from there. With 25, it's asking about the equation of the line shown. With this one, probably the easiest way to go about it is your slope and your y-intercept. So if we look at my y-intercept, I've got a point there at 0, -1, and then I want to count my slope from there. Up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3. So since I've got that positive, it means my slope is +1/3, and my y-intercept is 0, -1, so my b value would be 1. So when I write my equation, I would have y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Now, to get an equation in standard form, I need to have that ax plus by equals c, where they're all whole numbers, no fractions. So the main thing to see is the fact that x and y are on the same side of that equation bar, whereas right now I've got x and y on the opposite sides. So I want to move x over to the opposite side. So with this one, that means I'm going to take and do the opposite, but when I'm moving, it's adding and subtracting. So I would subtract 1/3 x from both sides. So I'd have -1/3 x plus y equals -1, and that's a 1y. Now again, I cannot leave it as a fraction, so I'm going to use that denominator and use that denominator to take and multiply everything by the denominator to get rid of the fraction. So everything gets multiplied by 3. Now here you can multiply by 3 or -3. They would do the same exact thing. But when I multiply with this +3, I would get -1x plus 3y equals -3. Because again, I'm multiplying each and every one by 3. So with this, you could have it with a negative, but sometimes they're fussy about having that negative in front of x, so if they do, you just flip everything. So +x, -3y, +3. So both of those are valid answers for that. 26. We're looking at being able to use the graph and identify the x and the y-intercepts. So for the x-intercept, you're looking at where it crosses the x-axis. So that point right there. When it crosses the x-axis, it's only a number in x, and there's a 0 for y. So this one would be -3. So my x-intercept would be -3, 0. With y-intercept, we're looking where it crosses the y-axis, so that point right there. Which, for this one, I want an x number I want a y number in north. So with every single y-intercept, it's a 0 for x and then some number for y. So here I can count it 1, 2, 3, 4, which would give you a -4. So there's my x and my y-intercept. 27, we're looking at writing the equation. It's telling us different forms to go for this. So the first one it asks for is point-slope form. So point-slope form is from my formula card, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So I'm looking to find a slope and then that opposite point to be able to put into my equation. So when I look at the information they gave me, slope of -4 and goes through the point -6, 2. So when I write the equation, I'm going to keep the y. I want to do, if I go to label this up, that slope is my m. And then I have x1, y1. So y minus y1 would be y minus 2 equals my slope m, which is -4, parentheses x minus -6, because it's minus x1, but that double negative makes it a +6, because it's that opposite of what's there. So that's my point-slope form. But it asks for point-slope form and standard form. I'm sorry, slope-intercept form. So we're going to get it to slope-intercept form. The key to getting things in slope-intercept form is to get x by itself. So I want to get x by itself, but parentheses always have to happen first. So we're going to take and distribute out that -4 first. We'll get that y minus 2 equals -4 times x is -4x. -4 times 6 is -24. But I still want to get that y by itself. So that means I'm going to do the opposite of what's next to it, which means I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Make sure when you're doing this, you're only adding to the other number, not to that x value. So that cancels, gets the y by itself. Nothing happened to the -4x. And then we have -4 plus 2, which gets us -22. And there's my slope-intercept form. Y equals -4x minus 22. All right, with number 8, we're looking at passing through the point -2, 7, and has a y-intercept of 4. So with this one, it's 2 points in disguise. We have to keep remembering that your y-intercept is also a point. It's also an ordered pair, where that y number goes in the y spot, and then x is zeroed out. So this allows me to make a little table with the 2 points, 2, 7, 0, 4, and then I can use stat to get my equation. The other thing that we know, which is great whenever we're going to eliminate answer choices, is your y-intercept shows up in your equation. So if I'm looking at y equals slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, that b is your y-intercept. So since my y-intercept is 4, I know that my equation is going to be y equals something x plus 4, which will be great whenever you're eliminating answer choices. But to get that slope, we're going to take and put it into stat. So right now, I want you to plug this into your table and see what you get for that equation. Okay, so when we put that in stat, we should get a slope of, we get that a value, that slope of 1.5, but you want to make sure you turn that into a fraction on your calculator by using math enter and get that it's 3/2 x. Okay, 29 is a bunch of the same, but it's got that x-intercept and that y-intercept in disguise. So with the x-intercept, you want the x number to be 2, and then y is 0. With the other, you want y-intercept, so I want your y number to be 3, and the other to be 0. So that allows you to set up a table, 2, 0, 0, 3, to be able to put that in stat to find your equation. And again, you know your y-intercept is 3, that's your b value in the equation. So again, you can still eliminate answer choices. You know it's something x plus 3, because I've got that y-intercept. So we're going to put in stat, and stat edit, put that in your table, stat, arrow to the right to calc, number 4 to get that equation. So with this one, what does my slope end up being? Yeah, we get an a value of negative 1.5, which makes my slope negative 3/2 x. All right, and 30. 30 is again using that intercept, x-intercept of 6. So I have an x number, y is zeroed out, there's my x-intercept. Make yourself a table, 6, 0, negative 6, negative 8. We're going to use stat again. I don't have a clue for my equation, so I've got to use stat to get that equation. So again, using stat edit, putting that in to figure out what you get. And with stat, you get that a value as 0.6 repeating, which we're going to turn into a fraction using math inner to get 2/3. Then we get a b value of negative 4. That's going to help us with writing that equation. So I've got slope of 2/3. My equation is going to be y equals 2/3 x minus 4. All right, see you in the next video for 31 through 40. Bye.